You'll be forgiven if you forgot that Ms. Marvel is a TV show that recently came out on Disney Plus because it hasn't really ignited that much online conversation. Now, I didn't have that much of a chance at the get-go because the first 3 episodes came out alongside the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which of course at the time dominated all the online discussions, and it actually came out on the same day as well, which didn't help things even further. But the last couple of episodes had that time slot to itself, but it still couldn't regain the attention it craved. So is this a show that's been overlooked by fans, or is it a show that can easily be skipped if you're doing a rewatch of the MCU? I'd have to lean more to the latter because this show really lacks staying power, and also it's one of those shows which I actually forgot a few weeks it was actually on. I will say though, I think Iman Vellani as Ms. Marvel was a good casting choice. I thought she brought that energy to the character. It reminds me a bit of how Hailee Steinfeld brought that energy to Kate Bishop. I also enjoyed how they looked into the relationship between her and her mother, as well as her and her father, and we got some quite sweet scenes with the pair of them. And there were some stylistic choices made which helped make the show feel a bit more original when compared to its MCU counterparts. And just so you know, we'll be touching on some spoilers in this video, so that is your spoiler warning. This show had a lot of struggles I had to deal with because the story is pretty boring, the actual powers of Ms. Marvel weren't anything too remarkable, and then if you get to the villains, oh my word, they are some of the worst villains, some of the worst threat in any Marvel property I think I've seen. And I mean, this dude here actually died to them, and I would have cared if I actually didn't meet him only a scene before. With the material they wanted to show us here, I think this would have been much better as an origin film which went straight to Disney Plus, because that last episode sort of showed to me that if it moved at a faster pace, it was actually an okay watch. But instead we had these episodes, especially towards the middle, which felt really padded. I think they added a lot of content about Muslim culture in there, which I thought was interesting to see, but they definitely did rely on that way too much. Like, I enjoyed how they weaved it into the story, but it did feel at times that they were going a bit too far into documentary mode. And that might be because they didn't know what to fill the time with. It was cool to see some different locations though, I'll give it that, because after seeing New York and London all the time, it was quite nice to see Karachi and something a bit refreshing. For me, this felt like the first MCU show that felt like a Disney show within Marvel instead of a Marvel film within Disney. And with that, for those who haven't seen it yet, I probably only recommend watching the final episode and watching a recap beforehand, because I think otherwise you'll be wasting your time on a lot of bloated content here. And as is the standard to a conclusion of a Marvel TV show or film, we do get some reveals at the end. Bruno says to Kamala that it seems to be a mutation in her body, and then we get in the background a little riff of the X-Men theme. And I kind of felt that they're hoping for a big reaction to this, but it was a little bit underwhelming for me because, you know, no doubt I want to see the X-Men in the MCU one day, but we know that Ms. Marvel's going to be in the Marvels next, and so, you know, when's this actually going to happen? So it hasn't really built any excitement. And then in the post-credit scene, we see Ms. Marvel's bangle glowing, and then she swaps places, it seems, with Captain Marvel, which I assume will be the start-off point to the Marvels film, which comes out in 2023. Looking back on Ms. Marvel now, and I think it'll just be a show which sort of slips into the catalogue of Marvel Disney Plus shows. It did some things well, and I'm sure the Muslim community are very happy to see this sort of representation. The series showed some flair, but for the most part it was pretty dull and something I'd easily fall asleep to. Not one which will stay in the memory for me, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like what you've seen here on screen right now, is a video which shows my casting choices for the new era of James Bond.